All right, now we can get started. Cool. Very, very interesting. Look at this, right? I know, basically we've been saying the same thing for the past, I believe, 2 weeks, where we were anticipating to see what price would do after the reaction off of the monthly POI that we had pointed out. I believe it was like a month ago now, been maybe a little bit more. So I know that also on Tuesday, we had brought up the scenario, right? Both scenarios pretty much, where what would make sense in terms of a reversal in terms of swing structure, but intraday it would be technically continuation, and how that was distinctive in comparison to where we were from a daily perspective and our swing perspective per se. I will say that we did point out that we were still bullish in terms of our swing trend from low into high into retracement, because this was just the beginning of a pullback continuation BOS. But we were still bearish only up until we were right around here, I believe, during our Zoom. Yeah, June 7th at around 11 and 12, right? Up until this moment, right, we could assume a bearish sentiment, and that is why we even got a bearish reaction in play, because this was going off of the narrative, right, based on a previous potential turbulence point up until a reference POI. There is a confirmed liquidity grab, and that is why only up until here, based on price being here, we could conclude, right, that there would be, you know, a potential sign of bearishness. But after this reaction, right, I cannot judge that, I cannot dictate that, I cannot do anything with that, because, right, price has not been printed yet, and we can't necessarily play off of probabilities, right, if the scenario isn't even in play yet. So, right, up until after this reaction, right, this is where it gets interesting, right? And the first thing to note, right, immediately after our potential reaction, you could even refine the POI, as you can see there, right? We had a solidified low. Actually, I'll do it with this, right? Our internal structure, solidified and solidified, meaning there is internal unwillingness. So there's actually a legitimate reason, right, as to why this could fail. But as you can see, after the continuation BOS, let me change color, right? High, low, high, and then that is now solidified. So we haven't broken a high or a low, a low or a high. So we're technically within no man's land. But, right, in this scenario, right, if we have unwillingness on both sides and we're looking at a minor intraday, it's now important to know, right, where we are from a major intraday, because what is this now signaling, right? This is now, let me actually delete this. There, this is now signaling, right, that the effort necessary for this to continue lower is now becoming much less probable. Why? Because you can tell via the momentum. Internally, we can see that, right, there is reactions within that, but we are certain that we did not break a low and we did not break a high based on solidified points. So up until this moment now, you can argue a bullish scenario, because the effort necessary, right, in order to create a new low is not necessarily creating a new low. And we have 1, 2, 3 mitigations that led into a liquidity grab, right? And the liquidity grab here, I believe this is why I'd even specifically pointed out to Nico, right, that was actually a very good scenario. And I'm pretty sure you could see it much better in EURUSD, but in this case, right, there is a very clear liquidity grab model, right? And even if you can argue that that is technically a reversal based on the liquidity grab, you could still argue, right, that maybe there could be a continuation here or even here, right? And this, right, is very significant because we're seeing an internal model based on, right, potential low momentum from a bearish perspective, right, which is what we just covered with the, you know, unwillingness in the low and unwillingness with the high, right? So you're now looking at potentially catching, right, the discount, right, of a potential internal range, and this would now be in alignment with your swing perspective, which is what we noted on Tuesday. So yeah, that's pretty much very interesting right there. It's very cool to note how even though we can be essentially in one bias, it can be disproven based on the reaction of that bearish bias. And I guess that, you know, combines with effort and momentum and, you know, a bunch of stuff that we cover in the course. And with EURUSD, that's pretty much where, you know, we saw this scenario. And this is where I pointed out to Nico how that was a very good scenario. One, right, you do have, right, the liquidity grab in place, but that only makes sense, right, because we are creating a model, right, before we take out our overall structure. And that model is only significant because it's not necessarily that the model is taking place, it's what the model represents. And the model represents an unwillingness internally, right, to go, you know, not go in the direction that it's already going in. And now you're seeing that model right after we take liquidity and before we take, you know, a major swing point. So internally now, what that signifies to me, right, is this could either be one of two things. It is the start of the retracement to then go higher, or it is a sign of, you know, potentially a move failing. And this is where you could say hedging comes into play, because, for example, I was looking at this and I told myself I would need a bullish model in order to potentially hedge this position. And right, obviously we never even had a continuation BOS. All we did was have continuation 1, right? And even from there you could argue this, but this probably wouldn't have been something that I traded. But here this makes sense because this is, you know, potentially a double mitigation continuation model there. But yeah, very interesting. I don't know if Nico's on the call, but that was very good. Very good. And I will say we did get technically the direction wrong here. But with AUDUSD, we actually, you know, kind of got it right. And this is where, you know, once again, where I believe solidified points is one of the most important things within, you know, trading this way, or even trying to formulate some type of bias, because we had acknowledged, right, the bullish POI, the bullish reaction, the bullish scenario, right? But at the time, I believe we were here, right? We acknowledged, right, that this previous wick could have been a signal, right, of a failed reaction. And once that happens, that is technically a bearish liquidity model, a liquidity grab model, whereas now your invalidation for the bearish perspective would have been at the previous high. And as you can see, right, although this did not hit perfectly, there is a very nice transition here. And this is, in my opinion, trade of the week. I'm gonna delete that. Right, we had our pretty much our continuation there because we have unwillingness based on this high, and then we solidified the high. And internally there was, I believe, it was M2, I believe. Right, whereas we're in the POI, right, we see the liquidity graph form and then the continuation is in play, right? So this would be a continuation BOS, so low, high, retracement. This here, right, is not only the liquidity grab, but it's an unsubstantial new high, and that's why this here makes a whole ton of sense. Not to mention it's within New York, and this is actually what was a tradable scenario for me. But yeah, outside of that, right, I guess the AU bias, right? I remember that we had called this breaking this high as a sign of a potential pullback, and well, it was, and now we're seeing the sentiment really shift, and it's very, very possible for us to now potentially aim for a previous low or previous swing low, and that's pretty far away. So who knows if we'll even get another opportunity for this. But yeah, pretty short call today. How are you guys doing? Awesome. What trade was that? Missed you. Screenshot, cool. Doing all right, minus the COVID. Yeah, man. You should be almost off it all, aren't you? It's already been like, what, a week and a half since you've had it? Nah, you'll be all right, bro. Don't worry. You'll be okay. Good reason to stay off the booze, bro. Cool. But yeah, does anybody have anything you want to show today? Outside of that, I do have one little topic we can cover today. Excuse me. Okay, so anybody, any studies today? Let's see. When you posted GJ, I think so, yes. Let's actually look at this first. Okay, so one. Direction downward. Continuation BOS. This is a retracement. So this, the scenario here is really, that's the continuation. So realistically, you should be expecting this to clear that. So I should have made that green, sorry. This should be aiming for this. Now that this does not, well, actually, now let me clear that. Now, wait, hold on, I'll get to the messages, hold on. So this one, okay, this is annoying. This is 100% not valid in terms of structure direction. Second one, right? We have our pullback, we have the unwillingness here, but the bearish trend is not invalidated until blue is met. So this is now invalidated, okay? So now let me, right? So when I'm looking at this from order flow, I see mitigation, right? So from our low into our high, low, not even into a high, that would be here, right? So 2, 3, 4, realistically, an invalidation is technically there from a structural view, just because this is a low that created the high. So if you're looking for that immediate continuation though, that's when we would need to zoom in, and that would be low into high, low into high. So your invalidation from a scalp now perspective, or I would even say micro there, the blue would be the scalp, your invalidation would have been there. So from a scalp POV is your blue, from a micro it would have been your red. Just depends what you're looking for. So yeah, this is, once again, solidified points make all the difference, once again. It's until you could read, and you know actually where that originated from. So actually, I'll get back to that when I come back to the question I'm gonna ask you guys. Now let me go back through these messages. It's helpful. Discord, yes. Okay, we can delete. Okay, now we'll just keep it. Could you zoom in here? Do you remember what I said about pretty much holding here and moving up, so you could make the chart, I guess, wider or longer is the term, I think. Could you like widen that out for me? Yeah. Cool. I'll get to you guys after we get through the sets. I just want to see this in a bit more clear fashion. Okay, this is too much, but okay, let's see, cool. So, because now I can't see the low here. So this would be solidified low, right? Low, high, internal low, high. So this is your current bullish structural range. Let me actually only point this out. All right, so this one, continuation. This is now unwillingness into a new structural range. Your invalidation is there. Right, so the thing is now is the micro, the internal, right? You have, right, what you just pointed out here, that would be the internal, right? So realistically, right, taking a limit here, you have to do the invalidation. You have to. Why? Because this is relative equal highs. And relatively, looking at the internal structure, you are bullish like you pointed out here. So not only noting that you're bullish, but you're trying to know where I'm targeting with this bullish. So that's why, you're aiming for there. And that's why the invalidation was not met, but the bias was cleared, because we just needed more fuel to go lower. So the invalidation and the solidified points will, pretty much, like, you got the solidified points, you got the whole bias correct. I guess now it would just be the invalidation side of things. But yeah. Next one. Where is my drawing? Okay, cool. Solidified low, low, high, low. So this was never broken. So even up until here, you're still bullish until there. Come on, let me change color. Right, so here technically you should be looking for that continuation, but now that you broke this, right? You now have a solidified low, and because that is broken, you now have a solidified high. So you could say, argue that, but that would be your micro. That wouldn't be this. So this would just be hard to justify. I don't see the vision here. Because one, what are you referencing? That's not an SC. Two, right? If you're even wanting to trade there, just look at the high, the low, equilibrium, right? You're looking for premium. Because I was looking at this today. Let's see, you said something else. Okay, much better. Okay, leave right there. So this looks bullish, just based on what you're showing me with the chart. Cool, we already covered solidified points there, right? So the bullish trend is invalidated once that is met. Actually, let me do a line. Right, so this is your continuation break of structure, but since you're, just because I know this, because it's a pair trade, I know that we are downtrending. The only realistic way I'm going to trade this is if, right, we're in a premium, and if I'm going to look for a limit, my invalidation would probably be here. So you have your POI there, but here, this doesn't make much sense to me. I don't know what you're looking at here. This is what I don't get. Just this here. And you could still argue your continuation. Yeah. That's my time frame. Okay, who's next? One, two. Which one should I look at first? Oh, this you're talking about your GJ. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you see why the invalidation is here? Right, because internally this created that structural range there. So if you're looking at continuations, this cannot be broken. I wouldn't say stupid. I'd say careless. I wouldn't say stupid. Well, all losses can be avoided, bro. That's not productive thinking. I've noticed many times whenever you want to execute a trade with an internal unwillingness of SR, SO above the structure, most of the times internal unwillingness is taken out. Yes, so you're just referring to liquidity. You're just referring to more liquidity as fuel to generate the move without meeting invalidation. I think that's what you're trying to say. But yeah, that was definitely that was a good some good examples, very productive. Cool. Does anybody else have any more examples they want to show? Any more studies they want to show? Excuse me. Cool. I guess we can. Well, I guess the only question I had for today was, what are the disadvantages of model creation? And what are the advantages of model creation? Cool, I'll give you guys like 2 minutes to think that out. Just actually, I'm gonna do this. We can start with advantages. You guys can save the disadvantages for after we covered the advantages. Cool, I should expect at least 5 answers from 12 people in here. I know a couple of people are new, so I don't expect you guys to respond to that yet. Okay, I'll give you guys like 1-2 more minutes. No, we'll get to disadvantages after we cover advantages, but I think we got enough for advantages. Okay. Model creation helps you to essentially systemize your thinking to minimize human error. Yes, because it's a rule set. Or it's actually deeper than a rule set. It's a sequence set. Your trading becomes more systematic than emotional. Yes. And it's important here, minimize. You cannot discard human error unless you fully systemize, which would be, you know, algo stuff. So yeah, you want to minimize it. You cannot really discard it. Let's see, your trading becomes more systematic than emotional. Yes, but in creating models, there needs to be sufficient understanding. Yes, and I guess we could bring this up, like, This right here. Where did I put it then? Oh, it's not in this post. Is it derivatives? This is important. This right here. I created this on TradingView, by the way. It looks sick, in my opinion. It looks sick. Yes. You cannot create this without this, right? Your foundation in this POV would be obviously to know how to read a chart, read TradingView, read MetaTrader 4, or whatever platform you use. Basically, be, you know, good with common knowledge with trading. Your strategy is whatever you choose to you know, trade based on, whether that's support resistance, Fibonacci, Elliott wave, Wyckoff, just the list goes on. It's endless. You indicator trading, whatever, right? Your trading plan is the rules that you're trading based on said strategy, and a trading model is how you trade your trading plan, right? System of your creation and thought process. Yes. Model allows you to have a systematic approach that has an edge. Okay, question, what is an edge? Excuse me. Yeah, this looks sick. Okay, so question, what is an edge? Yep, actually, I don't even think I know the definition of that. No. Interesting, there is no definition for it. Maybe I'm not writing this correctly, but I've never actually looked this up. Then we can make our own definition. That's cool. An edge. Let's see. Boundary, extremity, side, lip, border, fringe, see more. Ah, here we go. Individual superiority. That's pretty much what I'm reading there. Trump card, upper hand, ascendancy, kind of authorities. Interesting. Disadvantages, we'll come back until we're done with advantages. I think we're done with advantages. So it's an edge, a probabilistic imbalance in your favor. Perfect, I like that, perfect. You guys can note that. An edge is a probabilistic imbalance in your favor. Let me do this. No, actually, here. Perfect. Now we can, you know, have that for future reference in the Discord. Man's definitely Googled that. Okay, so we can get to disadvantages now. I think advantages is much more straightforward than disadvantages. Okay, disadvantage, restrict you to specific types of trades, and perhaps might mean you trade a lot less and have to wait a lot more for a valid setup. Question, is that a disadvantage or is that, you know, an advantage? Right, restricts you to specific types of trades and perhaps might mean that you trade a lot less and have to wait for a more valid setup. Is that a disadvantage? Because if you attempt to trade, well, think about it. A lot of people attempt to trade every setup and they're unsuccessful. So how is that a disadvantage? In reality, it's, yeah, if you FOMO, yes. Yes. I've kind of assigned like a probability to my models because by not draining your money, you're not trading the highest probability you can. Interesting. Interesting. Your edges are derivative, it's unique and interpretation. That's something others and make them work for you. Yes. I just an advantage over some and probabilistic. There we go. I don't think having an edge would be a disadvantage. Foundation and patience is a prerequisite of a model. Yes. Yes. Well, what if you're missing tons of stuff? Well, that goes back to what is your goal? What are you aiming for? How much money do you want to make? How much return do you want? How much percentage do you want? Within X amount of time. Because depending on how much you want to potentially, you know, gain in return, that kind of goes into creating a model. If you want to trade every week, you create a scalp intraday model. If you want to trade every month, then you could trade a swing model. So that's why it's kind of like it's a full refinement thing. It's like a continuous refinement thing. Because, for example, you could have a very good model, but like you said, you'll miss a lot of trades, but that just means that your model doesn't fit the criteria of how much you want to trade per X amount of time. You see what I mean? It's low-key hard. It's supposed to be hard. Because you have to pretty much, what you're doing with a model is you're pretty much putting a puzzle together. This has to fit here, that has to fit in there. Yeah. And I think it really just falls down to that foundation. For example, I bet a lot of you have models, but I bet a lot of you can't tell me every SC rule by heart. You know what I mean? Or at least every SC rule that you use. You know, that's why I think the foundation is such a big factor. For example, like I try to compare this, you know, like for example, my chiropractor, he can name every muscle of every bone in your body, which is insane. So the practicality of it actually doing it is very simple because his foundation is in place. You see what I mean? So if your foundation isn't there, then it's really hard, you know, from a probability standpoint for you to, you know, match that type of success with the actual action, if that makes sense. All right, does that make sense? Damn, nobody's answering. That means you guys are probably thinking right now. Do you still change your models? I kind of have to, bro. I found this one thing. Let me see what it's called. This. I realize that even I have to continuously study my own definitions because of this. Like, what is this called? If two memories are the same strength but different ages, the older will decay slowly than the younger. I think this is it. I forgot the exact name of it, but pretty much a memory will fade over time unless you're continuously reiterating it within you. I forgot what it's called. Is it this? No, it's not this. Yeah, I really noticed that because a couple of months ago, I was like, damn, like I forgot my own rules just because I don't look at them anymore. So I could still technically trade what I trade, but I don't really, I never reiterate the foundation. You see what I mean? So how can I expect, you know, anything outside of complacency if I don't reiterate? And that's where I found myself, complacency. No, bro, I just read your own definition. I read my own definitions. Because I still have all the notes of when I created the course. Like for every video, I have to make a little outline, and I still have that. But yeah, I definitely, the forgetting curve, I think that's what it's called. This. Yes, this. Here we go. The forgetting curve. That's what it's called. No, yeah, bro, but I see my stuff every day. I see them on the charts every day, but that doesn't mean I can define it. Yeah, and I mean, you could blame that on overconsumption. You could blame that on, you know, a lot of stuff. You keep growing old. Nah, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that. Automated. I think that's the wrong word, bro. Habitized is much better. Like most of my days, I do the exact same thing. I don't even think about it. Every day, no matter what, I get my morning coffee in. I definitely go to the gym. I look at the charts. I look at Discord to see if I'm missing any DMs, right? There's things that I do every day that I don't really think about. And that was just my excuse to, you know, not necessarily put that much effort because I'm consistently doing the same thing. Well, nah, bro, no. If you're seeing different patterns and you're trying to trade a different model. And some more. Yeah, I would say yes. I would say yes. You don't think they move the same every year, or are you just, you know, becoming better? Are you just becoming better at realizing different things? Because I'm pretty sure the things that you missed a year ago, you don't miss today. I think things you didn't even notice a year ago, you notice today. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to put blame in the market. You could put blame on yourself. That's kind of what accountability is. For example, when you first joined, you were not getting the relative same amount of consistency that you get today. Why? Because you did X, 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 and X, and then you practiced X, Y, 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 Y to get the product Z, 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 Z. So now you can actually look at a chart and know what you're doing. So of course the chart isn't going to look the same because your mindset, your experience, right? Maybe shit, their level of calmness is completely different from what it was when you first joined. So don't necessarily look at the chart differently, look at yourself differently. Yeah, just something to think about. Yeah, go for it. And I guess we can end it off after here. I think that was very productive. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I found this like literally 3 days ago or something like that. I'm telling you, man. This shit right here. Everything you could ever want to know, pretty much. Well, what do you define as major intraday? If you define this as major intraday, then yeah, it wouldn't be. But internally, it is. Yep, so your direction is bullish. Right, you come into the high. This, I would just see as a continuation range. So this, right, would be technically a bullish LG, but there's also the internal bearish LG. So realistically, that changes the character. Yeah, no, yeah. It just depends on what you're referring to. Cool thing though is the only scenario that makes sense here to me isn't this. It's actually this, because you have, just from what I can see, you have structural disruption. And then you could see here the little mitigation right there. I'm not gonna force that. So mind you, before we get to this, mind you, we're still technically bullish only up until this occurs. It's only until that occurs that then you can convert into bullish, into bearish, I'm sorry, and then that's why you get that. Yeah. Because that's in alignment with that. Yeah. But this, one, you're bearish there, but it really depends on where this low is from, whatever is over here. So that's why I said you're technically bullish. So here, you have low into high, into high, continuation BOS, discount, target met, that is now technically there, a bearish LG, but this is super messy. So I would need to zoom in here for this to make more sense. Yeah, it's just, this is hard to justify here just because, right? Low into high, continuation BOS, this should be the target for here, yes. So, so I'm not really seeing much of a scenario here. Unless you're going for bearish LG, limit into invalidation, that you go into break even, right? And then here, whatever happening here internally could dictate whether or not you get out or not. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I think we can wrap up here. yeah, I think we're almost an hour in, so yeah, I think we can wrap it up here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. Yeah, man, you guys take care. Have a safe weekend.